I shit you guys not. I just thought I recorded for 42 minutes and I didn't press record.
Oh, to be so young, so free, so cool. Grew old to take, to break all of their rules. Oh, but you know I swear to God, that don't mean anything. And it is only for your kisses I stay alive. In your body in the night.
Yeah, I'm pressing record now. Son of a bitch. So newsflash, a lot of people hate Ektar. Not sure why, but a lot of hate on Twitter. A lot of hate on other social media. But I like Ektar. I've shot it a couple times on medium format, but I've never shot it on 4x5. I will talk a little bit later about why I was exactly in this small town in Illinois called Raymond, which has about 1,000 people, I think, was the last time that I checked. But I set up this first composition, and as soon as I did, these two cars pulled up, and I was about to pull a Nick Carver and go offer him $20, but I didn't have $20 on me, and I didn't particularly feel like selling myself to get them to move their cars either. So I ended up going across the street and pointing it directly at this grain bin and this town hall that I saw. I actually saw this on Google Maps before I went there. And this one turned out pretty nice. I just metered for the sky, the grain bin, and then I metered for the ground, and I just averaged everything out that way. The colors turned out really nice. You can get the colors of the sky, the sun hitting the orange brick of the building. And it just turned out to be a really nice photo that I really liked. And you can see Ektar is perfectly fine.
I used to laugh like a bastard, now them days are long gone. I used to piss myself with my silly songs. Used to take long walks on beaches and dreaming.
For the flower photos, it's been pretty dreary and gray around here. So when the sun came out that day, I knew that I wanted to get something that was colorful, something that was bright, something that was dramatic. So I set the flowers up in my kitchen, and I knew it was going to be really high contrast. So I just metered for the highlights, and I didn't really care about everything else in the background of my kitchen because my kitchen's not that interesting. So I took these two shots, and you can see very colorful, very dramatic. I used a little bit of tilt on this first one to get the flower petal in focus, and then the top of the flowers as well. And then the second one was nothing special, just shot straight on, wide open, metered for the highlights, and I just liked the way that the light was hitting the flowers.
Moses, you were Jesus.
So the next day, I actually reached out to John, who I photographed a year ago in Mount Olive. I photographed him and his son Isaiah. And if you guys remember, if you've been longtime followers of the channel, I used to have a speed graphic, and at the time I thought it was perfectly fine. I didn't think anything was wrong with it, but I shot these portraits of John and his son, and literally everything was out of focus besides like one blade of grass. Turns out that the Fresnel and the ground glass were messed up, and the whole thing was messed up, so I ended up only getting one usable portrait, and that was on the Pentax 6.7, and it was this one of Isaiah. which I really like. I like the mood of it. I like the colors of it. I like how his flannel pops, but I went to rescan this the other day and I could not find the negative. I'm rescanning some old work for the book for the project just to get the best quality scan, and I can't find the negative anywhere. So I actually reached out to John, and he agreed to meet up another time, one last time, so I could finally take their portraits the correct way.
Heartfelt poses of you with the other guy. With Jesus. You with Jesus. You with Jesus.
And he had sent me this picture before of what it looks like now. The truck and the car are inside a garage and they're not outside. And I didn't want to bother with asking him to move it or anything like that. So I was just going to work with what I had inside the garage.
How's it going, man?
How you doing?
Good.
It's been a while.
Here, hell, it's warm in here.
Your garage got a little bit bigger.
A little bit, just a tiny bit, but yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Appreciate you meeting up with me
Hey,
one last time.
Not a problem. Yeah.
I was going through it with the camera gear last time.
Yeah.
So immediately when I got there, I told him to turn off the lights. I told him to pop open the garage door, get some natural light in there. And before we get into these portraits of John and Isaiah, I will let you know that they were processed and scanned by Northeast Photo. They offer really great pricing, specifically on 4x5. They do 4x5 process only for $5. They do 4x5 process and scan for $13. And they have contact sheets using their Eversmart Supreme 2 scanner, which can now scan a full roll of film as a contact sheet. And you can get single image crops, which should be suitable for small prints and sharing on the web. And lastly, they have reward points. For every $10 spent, you receive 1 point, accumulate 50 points, and you get a 20% off coupon. And if you want to save 15% off your first order with them, just use the code Birks at checkout, and it will do exactly that. All these portraits were taken on Portrait 160, and I metered at 100 just to get a little bit overexposure because I know that it can handle it extremely easy. But this first one that I took, I really like just because I just really love full body portraits. And the way that I focus with this is I just focus on his face and then tilt it down to his boots just to get everything in focus. You're going to notice a lot with the portraits that I've taken recently where I'm trying to get face, hands, and feet in focus. And a lot of people make that mistake when they first start shooting portraits, and I did exactly that, is they want to use these crazy movements, crazy tilt, crazy swing, and get things out of focus. The more that you shoot, the more experienced you are. You want to get specific things in focus, and you're more worried about getting things in focus instead of getting things out of focus. And for this, as you can see, it would have looked a little bit weird if his feet were out of focus and his face was the only thing in focus. This second one that I took was kind of copied directly off Brian Scoopmont. I just really love the portrait that he had of this old man for Graze the Mountain Sins. And all I wanted to do with this one, like I said, the hands, the feet, the face, you want to get those in focus. So for this one, I focused on his face and then tilted down to his hands. And then this last one that I took, it's probably my favorite out of the ones that I took that day, but with that lens, with large format, you can get an extremely specific and unique look, and that's exactly what this is. I used a little bit of tilt, and if you look closely at his chin, you can see that it's a little bit out of focus, which looking back, I probably would have used less tilt to get that in focus, but to the casual viewer, it's not very noticeable. I didn't use any swing or anything because his eyes are pretty in line with the camera. And just at the last minute, instead of looking at the camera, I just said, look down at, I think I said, look at a door handle, and he did just that. And then the last portraits that I took were of John, and I just wanted to get some basic photos of him just because I knew that I went there last time and screwed up his portraits last time. So this first one was of him just sitting in his car looking out. Again, just a little bit of tilt to get the feet in focus and his head in focus. And for this one, I was metering everything at 100, and I think it was around 1/60th of a second. And then when I moved in for the second one, I actually underexposed a little bit because I think I was blocking the light with my body and the tripod. So it was probably going to be around 1/30th of a second, but I just did 1/60th, and it led to a little bit of underexposure. In the first portrait, you can see that his hands are in two different spots, and when I moved in, he had those hands in the same exact spot, and it was impossible to get one hand in focus, the other hand in focus, as well as his face. So I had him move them down to his lap, kind of like Isaiah was sitting on the tailgate. And he was looking directly at the camera, but at the last minute, I had him look off like I asked Isaiah to. And as you can see, it looks a little bit unnatural because he looked a little bit too far off. When you tell someone to do that, the best bet is to just look a little bit off camera, because if someone looks a little too far away, it begins to look a little bit unnatural. So if I had to go back and do this one over, just look a little bit off camera and not so far off camera. So overall, pretty happy with the photos that I got, even though I only took around 8 or 9. I'm all about quantity over quality. All right. I'm all about quality over quantity. I'm not a millionaire, and I can't afford a shit ton of film to blow through every YouTube video. So the last thing I want to talk about is this beautiful book by Klaus Pickler, The Petunia Carnage. I mentioned this a little bit in my last video, but I finally got this. And this thing is fucking beautiful. This cloth cover. Can you hear that? And then this beautiful lettering that's burnt in to the cover. I told Emma that I don't even care if I pick this thing up. I don't even care if I look at it. It's just going to sit out so people can marvel at the beautiful cover. Thank you guys for the support. I always look forward to showing you some pictures and talking about some photo books and some work that I love. So if you guys have any questions, let me know. Any comments or concerns, just leave them down below. I'll get to them eventually. I appreciate you guys, and see you later.
Oh, it seems I was Moses. You were Jesus. You were Jesus. You were Jesus Christ.